Straight, right, not too like. Bill?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yep.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Barr,
Here.
Giovanini,
Here.
Eckhoff,
Here.
Callis,
Here.
Lee,
Here.
Hauser,
Here.
Bradshaw,
Here.
Cranford,
Here.
Howard,
Here.
Willie.
Here.
Thank you. This time, we are obligated to have a meeting of the Civic Center Authority. With no business before that group, we will close that meeting and move on to the consent agenda. If everybody's had time to peruse
Do we
that.
need to do anything about that?
I move for approval of the.
Second?
Okay. Motion by Bill Callis to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Jerry. Roll call, please.
Barr,
Yes.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Cranford,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the regular agenda, we have approval for Fire Department Safer Grant application. Jake, you got a moment?
Yes, sir.
This is it.
Jake, before you start that, I just want to mention, this last week or so ago was the second anniversary of the city taking over the ambulance service and all that, and to say that you guys have done a tremendous job is a disservice. We're really proud of everybody over there and all the work that you put into it, and they have too.
Thank you, Mayor. That means a lot to us, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tonight, Council, I come before you to request permission to apply for the SAFER grant. The SAFER grant would be utilized to hire one additional firefighter. The SAFER grant, for those of you who were not around in 2005, it was a federal grant that the city utilized to hire additional firefighters at that time. Since that period of time, they have changed the rules on how they fund it. In the past, they required that the municipality or fire district match those funds during the period that the federal government would help supplement the salaries and benefits. At this point in time, they do not require a match. They will fully fund salary and benefits for up to 36 months. So with this opportunity and changing guidelines, there is a great need for hiring an additional firefighter due to our call volume. Currently, we are seeing Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. an increase in overlapping calls, which requires us to pull firefighters from our fire engine to staff the third ambulance. And in fact, at this moment in time, we're doing that right now. We had to pull firefighters off of the engine to cover the third ambulance at this moment. So right now I have one firefighter over there staffing the engine while we're handling the multiple calls. So it is an ongoing issue because of our increase in responsibilities, and to ensure that we're covering all of our responsibilities, which is a lot of them now between fire, rescue, hazmat, and emergency medical transport. I want to ensure that we're covering all these responsibilities in accordance to the NFPA standards, in accordance to the high standard that our department has set as far as what we cover in this community. With this SAFER grant, it would allow us to hire one additional firefighter to be on a float shift. Like I said, fully funded for 36 months. At that point in time, when the federal funding runs out, that would be the time when we would have to evaluate if we could continue to fund this position. If not, there is a safeguard built into this. When that time period ends, we will have one firefighter, deputy chief, that will be retiring at that point in time. So if we are unable to fund this position, if we're awarded it, that person could take over the vacancy that's created by that firefighter that's retiring. So there is a safeguard into this. Unlike the last time, there were no safeguards. They definitely have changed the guidelines to help fire departments staff their fire departments properly, and I think it would be an advantage to the city to take advantage of this situation. So in order to apply for this, I would recommend that we would hire Vickers Consulting Services, which is the consulting firm that I utilized when we got the AFG grant, which was the larger grant that we got to fund our replacement of our SCBAs and our air compressor. They do a very good job. They have a very high success rate across the nation. And I would strongly encourage that if we move forward with this, we hire them. And their annual cost is $1,200 to apply for the grant. I would utilize funding that has already been budgeted to me within the fire department miscellaneous budget. So tonight I ask you permission to move forward and, one, apply for the grant, and number two, hire Vickers Consulting to help me as a team apply for this larger grant.
Okay. Any questions for Jake?
What is the deadline for the application?
So the application period, when you're dealing with the federal government, is very broad. It could be anywhere from October to February as far as the application. It takes about 2 months working back and forth between myself and Vickers to actually get it prepared. So that's why I'm trying to get ahead of it. Just talked to the gentleman today, and he's already getting backfilled with other departments already starting this process. So that's why I'm coming to you early in order to get our name in there and start working with them. So when the application does open, it's a very small period when the application period is open to apply for it.
Did we have any conversation during our budget talks about hiring additional personnel?
We did not, and when Jake came to me, our thought process really was that because of the safeguard that's built in with the retirement, it puts him in a spot that if we are awarded that grant, and 3 years is a long time to have no other turnover anyway, but the training and all that, we wouldn't be starting at ground zero when that should happen. And so any time that we might be above staffing would be funded by the grant.
But would we really lessen a position in 3 years if we didn't have somebody retire? I mean, let's be honest, everybody.
So this position is going to be on a float shift, and I mean, we've done in the past, even at the police department, where we've had these kinds of shifts that they do their course, and then you can, because they know they don't, the shift doesn't rely completely on that one person, that it makes it easier to, if that position goes away, that
One thing also
the
with
shifts
this,
can cover it.
yeah, one thing with this 3-year period, because of the way this person would be staffed, there would be opportunities where we could fill them in to meet our minimum manning staffing requirements, which could create savings in overtime. Now, I am not going to be like my predecessors and promise there's going to be a savings, but there will be a 3-year sample where I can study that. And if the financials add up, then that would be a case to keep the position if we were able to. It might show that there is no savings, And I am under the full understanding, out of respect, that if we can't afford it, then we can't afford it, and there's that safeguard to fill in for the retirement. There is a need for this position, and I'm trying to utilize federal funding and not taxpayer dollars to get us over that hump. And when it comes time to it, if the money's not there, the money's not there, and we'll continue to go all over the place to try to help fill it. I'm doing all I can to try to help fill it. Friday, I was driving a fire truck to help the fire engine out. So we're plugging and playing where we can, but we're making it by where we can. So.
I was caught off guard by this because we've not talked, and as the, finance, in 3 years, what's the projected cost of what it would cost us? A new position costs us how much per year? Like, if we were to add a person to our staff, $100,000, is that a safe?
That's safe.
With benefits, and so we're also gonna be adding, potentially substation that will cost us more addition to the department. And I just think we all need to be cognizant of, making decisions that are gonna force our hand down the road. And I like the safeguard idea much, because it does get us off the hook at that time. But anytime we start a new service, it's hard to pull it away from the residents whenever it is, if we say we can't afford that anymore. But we need public safety. I'm not, I wish we could have examined this a little bit deeper before.
And we have a little time. We have time.
Yeah, I'm not trying to push anything down
Well,
council and
at this
pressure
point, we're
them.
just looking at applying.
Yeah, so we can, there's no guarantee we would get it, and there's nothing that says we have to accept it.
Well, but
And so that was
it's not
kind of
worth
our-
the efforts of,
Yeah.
it's kind of,
Well,
we don't want to
but
get
with
it
all
and
grants,
then say no.
with the way a lot of these grants work anyway, they have such a small window that if you don't apply,
Right.
you miss out, rather than applying and then being able to make a decision.
Yep.
I mean, for me, I lean strongly toward the attrition factor, because you are just adding pension liability
Exactly.
if you're adding on. So,
Yep.
but the prevailing argument that in knowing how police and fire service has been working, is that they're never at full staff, and to have an opportunity to have somebody trained ahead of time on somebody else's pocket it was an opportunity to explore.
Oh, yeah, it's not that
Yep.
part. I want to make sure that we understand that we may not be
Yeah.
able to afford it in 3 years.
And we
mean-
don't have right now any plans on adding additional staff with the substation. So
So the substation won't take additional staff?
right
At this point.
at this point, that's
point.
yeah.
And if you've won the grant, the requirement is to make the hire.
Yes. Well, that's what the grant would be for. I mean, I guess you wouldn't have to make the hire; they just wouldn't pay until you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there a max, like, how do they base what they give us? On
No,
what our
so-
salary stage is?
Yeah, so we submit all of the paperwork, what the cost would be
Yeah.
projected based upon our contractual and our benefits. And there is no max, because everyone's salaries range differently. So that was one thing they took out of when they changed the guideline to no matching fund.
Yeah.
They did not set a cap for as far as what the salaries were based upon. So like I said, I'm not a person that tries to rush things or catch
know you're
people
not.
off guard. There was an opportunity here, and like Mr. Wolford said, if it's an opportunity to not put us behind the 8 ball, we've been behind our staffing levels for 8 months now, and I'm just getting close to filling those. So it's an opportunity where there's a safeguard. If you guys are not comfortable with it at this point in time, I'm more than happy to provide more information. We do have a window here, like I said, but it does take a long time to work back and forth to get this prepared. And when they release it, it's a very small window to apply for it. So,
And it's just firefighter, not ambulance?
correct. It has to be for a firefighter. Now, they can be cross-trained, and they can go on medical calls and do everything our firefighters can do.
Yeah.
But it's specifically that it has to help staff the fire side of it, which is what's being robbed from, which is the point of having cross-train. We understand that, but our call volume is continuing to increase and increase, and we're trying to cover everything.
What was the deadline again?
It could be anywhere from October to February to apply. That's the problem with federal grants.
Okay, all right,
They
thank you.
decide to release them out of the blue and you apply for them.
Jake, I think there's a couple things I don't understand, and I got a couple different questions.
Yeah,
So if this is to add a position, and we're currently understaffed, and we add a position and then hire somebody, how do they know if we're hiring for a position we already had that wasn't staffed, or that we're hiring for our new position?
right. And I don't want
Good question.
the illusion that we're understaffed. It's just the fact that what the staffing we have is covering other responsibilities, which shortchanges responsibilities we previously covered. So the intention of it is there's an NFPA standard that for fire responsibilities, your NFPA standard wants 4 firefighters on the initial response. In normal circumstances, when we only have 1 or 2 medical calls going on, we have that covered. We have 3 that are positioned on the fire engine and 1 is shift commander. What's happening is our calls are overlapping so much that we have 2, 3 calls going on. So in order to make sure we're getting medical care and transportation, we're taking firefighters off the fire engine and sometimes our shift commander to cover that 3rd ambulance call, which then reduces our fire protection. And it's not just fire protection, they're also the ones that do the technical rescue. So if there's an extrication, they're the ones that are utilizing the equipment for that. So we're staffed properly. Is this the problem is we have overlapping calls and everyone is being put to work. This firefighter would help maintain at least 3. We're still short of the 4 standard sometimes, but at least when we have a 3rd ambulance call going on during these peak hours, our fire engine is covered for fire protection.
So I'm gonna repeat back to you in my words what I think you said to me, and you tell me if you think I'm right.
Okay?
We have all the posted vacancies filled, but sometimes we do not have enough manpower to do all the tasks that we're responsible. And so this would help with that, adding another person, but it's not that we're filling a posted.
Correct. Correct. All the positions we have permission from the council to have, we're having filled. It's just putting an additional one to help staff the apparatus and the responsibilities during those peak hours.
So it sounds like staffing's a problem.
I don't want to ever say it's a problem. In anything public service, the problem is, some jobs you can dictate from 7 to 5, this is what we're doing for the day. These are the job assignments. With public service, with law enforcement, fire, and EMS, it's unpredictable. So there will be times where we're not doing anything. And there are times, just like at this moment in time, we're busy. And one thing to keep in mind too is when I started, we had a very strong callback, meaning we're relying on paid on-call personnel, full-time firefighters coming back off duty. We're no longer in those days. That is not the culture of the fire service in this area. We do get a couple people coming back to help staff things, but it's not as heavy as far as the response back. So now we truly do rely on who's on duty at that point in time to cover our call volume. So it is a changing of times and how we staff it. I never want to say it's a problem. It's a challenge, and it's our job to problem solve those issues and work through it. And we're covering all the calls, but it's my job to always try to make everyone aware of where we're at and try to utilize federal funding and state grants to help us apply that to help fund some of these resources that I see are challenges.
So if you're kind of juggling now between firefighters, EMTs, we don't increase staff and we have the substation, then there's going to be a truck out at the substation?
Yeah, so the advantage of
If
having,
there's a call and you're juggling EMT staff, would have the possibility of having a fire truck that couldn't respond because you're juggling, right now all the trucks are here. You put a truck over there and you're juggling staff to keep this truck, but they go out on EMT call, we could have a truck sitting in.
yeah, so the tentative plan for the second station
Okay.
is to have personnel out there from our current roster, current shift duty. So we staff 9 personnel a day, a 24-hour shift. The plan right now is 6 of them will stay at the station 1. 1 will be a shift commander. 3 of them will be, and I hope I do my math right here, 3 of them will be on an engine and 2 of them will be on an ambulance. 3 of them, when all 9 are working that day, will be out at the substation. And some of those personnel will be EMS only, some of those will be cross-trained firefighter EMS. So depending on the nature of the call, if it's a medical call in that area or that district, they will respond in an ambulance. If we have a structure fire in the district, then they have the potential, if we have cross-trained fire personnel out there for the day, they can bring the second engine that will be out there to cover it. The issue we're having right now is the engine company, the dedicated engine company, and it's not a problem. I mean, most departments do this. They jump over to the ambulance for the third call. So that's common. These are challenges all over the fire service because we're cross-trained. But as we continue to increase in call volume, we have to find creative ways. Some departments would say we need to add 1 more per shift. And I'm trying to be creative with the float shift. Some of you who were not around in 2005, that's actually how I was hired. I was hired to be the float shift. So instead of increasing all the shifts by 1, they hired me to try to cover during the peak hours. And I thought it worked out fine. Our call volume increased, so they utilized the SAFER grant to hire 2 more, and then they pulled me on to shift. So the SAFER grant really is an opportunity to kind of get over the hill or stop gaps for some of these challenges as they approach. But like you said, you have to have the funding at the end. And that's why I presented to the council of there is for sure going to be a retirement. So there is a safeguard. So that way we don't back the city into a corner of, hey, now we have this cost. There is a safeguard. But like I said, it's my job to bring these opportunities before the council. I respect whatever decision you move forward, and whatever decision you move forward with, we're still going to make it work. That's our jobs. So.
Thank you. Yeah. So we need a motion to approve Jake to apply for the grant and to hire the Vickers to assist with that. Motion by Frank
Seconded.
and seconded by John Willie. Roll call, please.
Giovannini,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Kauser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Cranford,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr.
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Can
Thanks,
I just
Jake.
make one request? That we work on a plan for how we're gonna deal with this moving out, because 3 years will pass fast. And then and you're a great planner. But let's not, that's one place that we fail in, is making plans. We're always doing things behind the 8 ball, and it just, I think we can do better.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah. Okay, moving on. I see Brian's up already, so we're going to bring Brian on to talk about the bid award and also street and transportation projects.
Last Monday, we opened bids for our HMA maintenance program. We had 3 bidders. Universal Asphalt and Excavating was our low bid. They were at $241,634.46. We would recommend that we would award that bid to them. There is motor fuel tax dollars in this, so we do have to work with the state for their approval as well.
What was our budget number?
$285,000.
Hey.
Yeah.
Can we throw another street there somewhere?
Have you ever worked with them before?
We have not. They've bid a couple of projects before, but they have not been awarded those projects. They were not the low bid. So this will be our first time with them.
See, we could grab one out.
That's a good question. Can we throw another street in?
We probably don't have one ready.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
We have a lot of priorities there. so
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
we can definitely
Yeah.
program.
I would make a motion to accept the bid.
Motion by Jamie, seconded by Jason Lee. Roll call, please.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Kauser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Cranford,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Giovannini.
Yes.
Thank you. Brian?
So just to give a little bit of an update on the work that has been going on this summer, Alperman Construction has basically completed the sidewalks on Reynolds Street. And that was part of our concrete program that was carryover from the previous year. We also have a couple of streets over by on Prairie and North that will be done. One block each there by the junior high that will be yet to come. They also have the alleys behind David's and Pub 13, as you recall, with the deliveries there. Chris is maintaining those alleys all the time, so that'll get those up to a condition that he's not out there maintaining those and not using our manpower for that all the time. So that is yet to come under that contract. We also have H.J. Apple and Company out on Vermilion Street doing sidewalks. We've had a couple of calls there. They have not been out there lately. I know they've got some other projects that over at the school that have been taking their time, but they are within their working days at this point. I have been in continual contact with Mark, and he is confident that he will complete that job within the working days allotted. And I believe that that will be the case. So even though we haven't seen activity there for a while, that is on their radar, and they will be getting back to that. We also have 2 projects on the south side with our sewer separation. They, in essence, have not started yet, but there has been some work behind the scenes. The phase 2 portion of the project has had a bunch of potholing, so they've gone down and checked elevations of gas, water, other sewer crossings. And then that information's been to Farnsworth, and they've reviewed that. And on Henry Street, we have pretty close to all of the manholes and inlets been delivered in the last week or so. And then on South Street and Grove, I believe, no, not Grove, but the other manholes will be showing up here in the coming weeks. So they'll be getting started, they believe, in September. That has a end date of around Thanksgiving. So we've been meeting and talking with Opperman, who has that contract, about meeting that schedule. They do have a little bit of concern with weather and some of that, but we feel like we can work through that to get that accomplished before the winter time. Phase 1 sewer project was a little bit more on the east side through the cemetery and on 2nd and 1st and some of those areas, and that was H.J. Epple and Company. And I was talking with Mark today. That one also, they've got some potholing to do and some things to prepare for that, and that one has an approximate Thanksgiving timeline to be completed as well. He thinks he might have to have multiple crews on that to get that done, but he's got that in mind to make sure that that gets done at that time. So we've been in constant contact with these contractors, cognizant of their completion dates. There's one more thing on Turtle Creek that I talked with Mark about today. It's a repair. 2 years ago when we did our bridge inspections, they recommended that we remove the asphalt, remove the waterproof membrane because some water was leaching through the precast beams on that deck. We'll regrout what is necessary, put a new waterproof membrane on that, and then surface that. And Mark is working with the waterproof sealer manufacturers to get a window that they're available and he's available, and that is on his radar to get done this summer. So that gives kind of a synopsis of where we are. Obviously, we just opened the bids last week and approved that tonight, so we'll move forward with our HMA program and get that in this year. So that's kind of where we are this summer, and you know, the way things go sometimes, it doesn't always get started when you want, but we'll get there and we will get these projects completed. So I don't, hopefully, you kind of wish that they'd space out just a little bit, and they may not. They may all jump at once, which would be maybe a challenge for us to watch them all at the same time, but we'll get that done and we'll make that happen. So, any questions?
I do, Brian.
Yeah.
The landscaping out around all the sidewalks around town, we've got a beautiful crop of buttonweeds growing about everywhere. And thinking back of the situation we had out on the Fairway View, who and when does the maintenance on that end and start?
It seems like surface restoration is always an issue, and I don't necessarily want to say we fight that all the time, but we kind of fight that all the time. And the spec book is very specific about when you can seed, Obviously, July, early August are typically not the time to seed. We did get some rains. It would have been nice. Some seed was down. Some homeowners have watered and the seed has come up nice. Others have not. So to get to the point on that, I guess, is we're still working with the contractor. And right now, he's outside the seeding window. So they'll have to come in, remove the weeds, prep that for seed, and then get that seeded. And I'm trying to remember now what the spec book says. It's either August 15th or September 1st when that seeding window opens again for the fall. So we're working with them to get them. We haven't really worried about it too much yet because they're outside that window. But once that window opens up, we're looking to get them in there and get that seeded and get some mulch on that and get that looking the way it should.
Because in some of the past practices where they put that straw down over the top, that really helps hold moisture. And
It does.
It does,
it's come
right.
up nice.
Yeah, there's multiple mulching methods. Some is straw. If you just do straw, it can blow around. You can knife it in. You can put a binder product on it. And there's some spray-on mulch, which is actually a pretty decent product for holding moisture in. But sometimes that gets over, we've had issues where that gets sprayed on the mailbox and sprayed on the sidewalk and the driveway, and then you got to get them to come clean that off. So we'll work, because there is mulch in the contract, and we'll work with them to get mulch on there to hold that moisture in.
Okay, thank you.
I tried to find this today, but I read an article last week, and I don't even remember where it was, somewhere online, about a city that was announcing their street maintenance program. I mean, it was somewhere not very far away from us, and they were doing recycled asphalt. Is that something that we have ever looked at, or?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean. I'd have to go back and look and see what the mixed designs are that we get. With asphalt, in the IDOT spec book, you are allowed for recycled material. So whenever you see these machines come in and mill that 2 inches off or an inch off, that material gets hauled back. And I know Mark has a stockpile of that. So that material gets put back into the mix.
Yep.
I want to say the last time I looked at that, it was 12% maximum. That changes from time to time as IDOT's materials folks look at that and see what they can do. You can use recycled shingles. That's another source. So there's different sources that we can, and that may be what you're referring to. So we are getting some of that. There's some others that are in-place recycling, it's a whole train of the milling machine, the admixtures, and then back into the paver. It's a little bit more complicated, and I don't think we would get the cost that we want for the amount of streets that we do.
Okay. And like I said, I wish I went back trying to find it today because I wanted to, bring it. I mean, it just sounded like, from what I remember reading, was that it was getting them a lot more bang for their buck in this community than what they would normally have been able to get. And I may be completely wrong, so I'm going to keep digging and see if I can find more information.
Yeah, and if you find that, I'd definitely like to look at that. There are some things, cold in place and hot in place recycling. Early on, they had some mixed results, and the longevity wasn't the greatest, and sometimes the placement wasn't the greatest. So we kind of haven't gone that route. But with anything, that technology changes, and the people that do it get better at it. So it's probably something we can look at again and see. I know, we just opened this bid, $120 a ton. I can't remember how many years back, but it doesn't seem that long ago it was $100 a ton. Yeah. So, just for an example, that goes up pretty quickly.
Yep.
And
question number 2, about a year ago, I had received a complaint from a resident about the inaccessibility for handicapped individuals at the corner of Mill and Howard, and came in and talked to Bob Carls at the time. And I mean, he was like, we got to get this on the fast track. And I know there was issues with drainage and whatnot at that corner that need to be examined, but here we are a year later, and we haven't made any improvements there. So is it still on the radar, or?
It's still on the radar. Okay. We've talked internally here with staff on a lot of ADA, and that's why Reynolds and Vermillion,
right, because
we had another resident that had a concern. They're in a chair on Vermillion Street, and they needed to travel that way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say like we ignore one and do the other, and we aren't ignoring it, but to do multiple blocks to help somebody, that corner's still on the radar. we've got other issues downtown. There's
Yep.
other places downtown that have ADA issues. So as we look at that whole ADA issue, wherever it is, and it's multiple places, as we look at that, we want to see where that can be part of a bigger project as opposed to just one intersection,
Yep.
and then do something with
Okay.
that. So it is still on the radar.
I just want to make sure if they call me again, I can say, it's not, you're not forgotten. It's,
Yeah.
Brian, thanks for the updates.
Can I-
Yeah,
let me
Yeah,
ask
you
you-
covered quite an area.
I'm sorry, I was just wondering what kind of damage is gonna be done to the street on South Street when they do that? Or is it all gonna be in the easement, or is it gonna be in the street too? I know the
Sou-
curbing's gonna be redone, right?
So South Street was planned for the south side along the curb line. And there was some power lines there and some other issues. So it was proposed to move that out more to the center of the street to alleviate some of those issues. So it will be pretty much down the middle of the street.
So you end up paving the street then, or what?
What we will do is the contract calls for asphalt patching within the trench. And I've been told by the contractor they will submit a change order for concrete patching. Because that's what, one of the contractors will ask for that, because that's their preference to do it that way. So I said as long as there's no additional cost to us, we would consider that. So, but the only street that we will repave when this process happens is Dixie Lane. Dixie Lane, because we figured we'd have a decent portion of that torn up with the sewer project, and the road has been on our radar for a number of years. We were going to go and do essentially the other half of that under this HMA project. So, but the rest it'll be a patch.
All right. Again, thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, moving on, we have the fitness center, or fitness equipment, and we're going to get Taylor up here, probably for the last time, to give us a send-off here.
It is the last time, unfortunately, yeah. I'll get to that in a second. So what I got before you guys is a quote that I got from the New Step Company. And if you look on the second page, you can see what these new pieces of equipment look like. This is the newest model that they have. And we have 3 machines currently at the rec center that are heavily used. And the type of people that use that are those that are recovering from a certain older members that come into the rec center. They use this as well to help with their mobility. They are used very, very heavily. And we have band-aided ours so much to the fact that they don't make parts for these anymore. So we have certainly outlived these, and they have served their purpose, but it's time to move forward and purchase 3 new ones. When we talked during budget, we worked with Jim on new equipment purchases, and we budgeted $30,000. We were thinking about treadmills and ellipticals. We did that last year, but this is our bigger need right now. We're doing okay on the older ellipticals and treadmills. So what we got before you is 3 new steps, is what we call them, and I think that was at $19,921. So we're just over $11,000 under budget, and was looking for your approval on that to purchase 3 new ones for us.
Do the used ones have any value to anybody anywhere?
I'm sure they do, yes, somewhere.
Recycler?
But not, I don't think monetary value, no.
I don't think it'll fit my condo.
I'm sure somebody could use it and write it out until they officially die, but
My
yeah.
home experience in these over the years is they make great places to hang clothes. Or,
Yeah, right, right. I don't think they have any monetary value, no.
I'll motion acceptance of the purchase.
I second.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Barb. Roll call, please.
Callis,
yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Cowser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Cranford,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're saving money on kinds of ways.
We come to the mayor's comments. I have only about 15 here, so I'll keep it shorter. The fireworks were great Saturday night, and the band that performed was exceptionally good, I thought. I enjoyed being out there, and I wish there had been more people, but with 5 or 6 inches of rain, we were fortunate to get everything in and have a good time. The other big things on Saturday, the National Historic Society listed this Stravel House. There was a ceremony for that, which was attended by several people, including Tom Ewing, Collins Miller, and Donovan Gardner's family, who got that project started. And we were really pleased with how it's turned out, and it's everything there is just really great. We will have need to get together probably before our next meeting, but Jim will get together with us and get some information on that. Other than that, I mentioned earlier that this marked the 2nd anniversary of the city and the fire department taking over the ambulance service. Done a great job. I alluded to Taylor's letter and his last appearance before us, and want to wish him well in his new adventure. He has about another week left with us, so we can still berate him and cause him a lot of trouble if we want to, but he's going to be taking over as an administrator in Clinton, Illinois, I believe. So I want to thank you for all your service here. You've been a valuable asset to this whole group. You know, it's a team effort, as they say, and you've been a great part of the team. So thank you, and best wishes for the future to come. Yeah. And I'm sure we all share in that hope and desire. And that's about all I have to get on to. How about city council comments?
I just have one directed toward Jake and his EMTs. Saturday night at Mass at St. Mary's, there was a person with a medical event, and the EMTs were called. They showed up in short order, and I'll tell you, I've never had the opportunity to observe them in operation close, but those guys were professional. Very little talking among them. There was just some signaling, and they all, unfortunately, the lady passed away on Sunday. Did she? But I think professionalism like that starts at the top. So, kudos to Jake.
Thank you. Kelly?
I'm sorry, I'm dominating here. Just want to make a comment about Tom Bennett's meeting that he had last week for city officials or any public officials, I believe. Myself and Jamie and Barb attended that breakfast, and I've been on the council for 15 years, and that was the most informative meeting I have ever been to about services that we have available to us at the state and federal level, and I'm hoping that we can maybe take advantage of some of what we learned that day. I didn't really want to go, and then I was glad I did because we learned, I felt like it was a really informative meeting. There was some great speakers from various organizations that we may need to tap into and what they can do for us. And with that, it kind of triggered my brain of, they talked a lot about comprehensive plan, and our comprehensive plan is, I'm not sure, 30 plus years old.
1997 or 5, somewhere right in there.
Yeah, and they talked a lot about how do you make decisions in your community when you don't have a good plan that you can look back at and say, do we intend to do something like this in our community? And yes, plans change. I understand that, but I think we really need to focus on getting a good comprehensive plan made for our community so that it will help us make the decisions that we need to here, at least give us a guide. I'm just throwing that out there. And especially with our TIF, seemingly we're always flying by the seat of our pants with when people come to us for things. And, you know, that is a thing that is going to end. We know that now for sure. And that time period will fast pass. And also back to just about my comment, my email about planning. I mean, I would much prefer that we have planned sessions of our committees so that I know when I have meetings and if they get erased. I mean, I think that's what most public bodies do. That's what we have with zoning. We have, you know, it just makes more sense to me that we have an arranged meeting times and we're not all scrambling to figure out when we're here who can and cannot come. And if you can't make them, I mean, that's, you know, that is what it is. But I'm a planner.
Okay,
I like to know what I have going on.
sure.
I'm going to piggyback on what Kelly said. At the meeting talking about the plan, a lot of the meeting was about grants and what's available and where to go to find grants or to find help with grants. And that's why it kept coming back to that comprehensive plan, because when you get an opportunity like the Safer Grant, you don't have time to come up with a plan. You have to already have a plan, because this is the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It was the opportunity meeting preparation. And I agree that if we have regular meetings, we will progress more. Because right now, we're just like shoving a concrete block.
Being more proactive.
Yes,
And that's what
yes.
this whole thing
Right.
was about, was being proactive instead of reactive. And it's amazing, sorry to take away from there, but the resources that are out there that I had no clue, and I've done municipals, not at this setting, but on different committees and organizations through the years, and it's just amazing. I mean, I could go, we learned so much in just a few hours. It was just
And maybe
amazing.
Jim, you guys all
Sorry,
might
Jamie.
know all of these things, but I just felt as a council person that I, you know, was somewhat uneducated, and
Mhm.
I'm usually try to be knowledgeable about that thing.
You know,
things.
I
Like those
wanted
ducks in a
to,
row.
I wanted to go. I had it on my calendar and something came up and I missed the opportunity. I know one of the first things that was on my mind when we did bring Jim in as a new city manager was that being one of your initial steps also in developing some sort of comprehensive direction. And I'm assuming that was part of what you all learned.
Well, it just that there's resources. Some of these groups will help you with, and yes, there's consultants we can hire, but these
lot of
may
it
be a
was
little
free.
bit, well, but
Sources are free.
these may be a little bit less
Yeah.
expensive, but they may not. I mean, it's, you know, they may help us with some things.
Well,
that-
one of the big persons there was the Illinois Municipal League, who offers a multitude of options and consulting for all of the cities and communities in the state.
Class.
Yeah. Yeah, I got several comments back from that meeting from other people too. It was very, very informative.
I also would like a regularly scheduled time for meetings, because most of my work happens in the evenings. So like, I just know, don't schedule people on Mondays at 7 o'clock. I just know that. But people like consistent times, so it would be nice to have a consistent time.
Okay, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
I
That's
have-
my notes.
I have two items I'd like to talk about. First one is, I'd like to personally address that general letter that went to the council and to the mayor by Mr. and Mrs. Lipinski, and their disappointment with our decision to remove the healthy trees, and their feeling that the council is not considering the benefits to the whole community. Mr. and Mrs. Lipinski have been consistent with their defense of the natural environment, as she stated. And I think we do appreciate their sentiment and their financial and personal contributions. So it's understandable that they would feel frustrated and dismayed with this decision. However, I think it's important to remember that the council does have and has had a responsibility to make decisions that are in the best interest of the community as a whole. And while it might be difficult for them to see the benefits of removing healthy trees, it is possible that there were other factors in play, which we discussed. It's also important to remember that the council is made up of several individuals who are doing their best to make their decisions and believe that we are doing that in the best interest of the community. So personally, I just want to address one part in there where it says, I want to go on record that my vote to remove those trees had very little to do with the cost. We discussed the cost, and it had very little to do with the cost and the, quote, cheap solution. And I was much more influenced by the health, the presentation of the young people there, the safety, and the property values that were down there on that street, Moulton Street. So I would hope that while they disagree with the council's decision, that they understand it's important to respect our rights to make the decisions that we made. So I just wanted to get that out there. Second thing I had a question was, what is this August 31st meeting at the rec center on the Route 66 renovation? What is it?
Route 66 Association has been planning for some time to redo Route 66, the old route from Chinoa to Pontiac. And there's been several meetings over the last 3 years to get this going. Some of the meetings are informational, and sometimes not everyone attends. But this one will be in town here, and as it turns out, Bob Russell and Brian Burton have been on that chart on that. Bob happens to be on the National Route 66 picture and on several committees, and they've been instrumental in keeping up to date in what's going to happen there. This is the first time there'll actually be something more of a time frame and concrete action coming about. But it's a large group, and we want to be on top of it. We're all feeling that that portion of the old highway needs work. So yes,
It sure does. Where's that meeting going to be?
at the rec center.
At the rec center?
Yeah. Yeah. There'll be more information coming up at the next meeting too. Yeah. All right. Any other council comments? City Administrator.
I just have a few. I also would like to echo the 4th of July celebration. A lot of adversity in the decisions that were made on that event. Rescheduling that wasn't going to be possible. We watched the weather, and when you look at the weather apps, and then we would get on these calls with the National Weather Service, I quickly learned that let's listen to what those guys say on the calls, because they were saying it's going to sit here for a little bit. However, we had to move some stuff indoors, and I think those that went really saw the partnership between the city and the Elks there. We had Route 66 licks inside, the face painting was inside, the band was inside, all the food was inside. So for those that were there, I think they really enjoyed the event, and the band was phenomenal. And hats off to Taylor, your staff, Liz and her staff, Chris, his staff, and police and fire for having their equipment out there. I know we didn't get the traffic over there to the touch of trucks like we would have hoped, but and also Jake, appreciate all the work that you guys did with the lighting, and I know you got called out during the event as well. So hats off to all you. It was, from the inside, it was nice seeing everything come together in an adverse circumstance. And to kind of touch Kelly on the idea of the comprehensive plan, we've been talking at staff on putting together, especially with our TIF, getting together to sit down, discuss internally, and with then with the committee, and bring to some ideas on, as these little projects like the Mill Street and how the Mill and Water Street project loom out there, on how we can address these issues as part of a bigger plan. We have the downtown streetscape plan that in its entirety isn't necessarily feasible probably with the TIF we have left, but to look at how we can take ADA issues, street issues, infrastructure issues, and combine them all together. And as we are doing things, to look at how they fit in the overall project. So, and maybe we can get on a multi-year plan on how we want to lay those out, knowing that we'll have there'll always be things that you never know, like summers buckle roads, winters do bad things to roads, and sometimes a street that's not so bad all of a sudden becomes a top priority. But having a better handle on all that stuff is one of the priorities that we're looking at. So, and not just being part of the roads, but with the whole ADA plan, because we have a number of projects as well that need to be addressed there. Other than that,
Are we gonna set that meeting date?
yes, the rescheduled community services committee that we didn't have. So,
I forgot my book in the car.
and the community services committee is Callis chair, Willie vice chair, Bradshaw, Eckhoff, Howard, and Lee.
I forgot my book in the car. Would everybody be patient for me if I went out to the car to get it? Or I can just do it off my phone and guess. I'll just guess. If I can't be there, I can't be there. Sorry.
What's good for your schedule?
My schedule is, I'm good with whatever is the council's pleasure, so let me pull up my calendar.
Are we looking at next week?
I can, actually, this week, I'm pretty open this week as well, so,
I'm gone all this week after today.
okay. And I can, next week looks like that would be fine anytime next week.
And Jason,
So
you
we-
can't be there before what time?
5's the earliest for me.
Okay.
Are Tuesdays okay? Monday or Tuesday? A preference? Maybe not Monday?
Maybe
Or,
not.
I can do Monday or Tuesday
Okay.
next week.
I can too.
okay,
I could, but I've got library board on Monday, but
okay. Well, we can do
we
Tuesday.
can do it.
No, we can't.
We can't?
No.
Okay, we can't do Tuesday.
Tuesday's not good for me either.
All right,
Monday's fine.
okay, Monday?
Yeah.
Monday'd be fine.
All right,
14th,
yes, Monday the 14th.
and what time?
What's the time that you are,
I can, 5 or later, I can make a
Okay.
5. I can leave
5
early and make a 5.
5 o'clock?
That's
The 14th, yeah.
Monday the 14th at 5
Christy's
PM.
birthday,
Okay.
right? Your daughter, Christy? Oh, no, it's her wedding anniversary. Or the 12th. Can we make pickleball be on that agenda, please?
Can, sure.
That would be part of the agenda, yes.
Yep. That's all I have.
Can I have a reminder on that?
Yes, sir.
Public comments?
I might need a reminder on that.
No public comments? Okay. Thank you for attending. Okay. And
Well, you-
I think we just need a motion to adjourn then.
I'll motion.
Motion by Scott, seconded by Frank. Do we roll call or just? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, are they?